Are you having regular conflicts with a young person in your life? Are things getting more vocal, emotional, or maybe even physical? Are you seeking strategies to help you manage these situations where emotions get really high when you're simply trying to put in a boundary? Or have you noticed a pattern of increasing difficulties in communicating and connecting with a young person in your life or you're supporting? If you're noticing or worried about any of these topics in your personal or professional life, then this video is for you. We're going to be going through a 3, maybe 3.5 step process to help you manage these behaviors when things get really difficult. My name's Alex. I'm a forensic psychologist who specializes in young people with social, emotional, or behavioral problems. So there's a very interesting guy within the realm of trauma called Bruce Perry, who's a world-renowned author. I put a link to some of his books in the description. If you're interested in learning more, go check it out, because trust me, they're really interesting books. But anyway, he developed this approach called the neurosequential model of therapeutics. He has 3 simple concepts we can use to help us navigate conflict in relationships that can be especially useful in situations where things are getting really heightened and maybe where the risk of aggression, conflict is rising. One amazing thing that neuroimaging and brain science has been able to show us is the adolescent brain is still developing. On the outside, they're starting to look more like adults, but internally, the mechanics and software hasn't quite caught up yet. And not surprisingly, it's the ones most obvious when we're experiencing high emotions, especially relational conflict. So it's important that during these periods of high emotion is the need to lend your brain to young people during challenging moments. Think of yourself a bit like a driving instructor with a new learner. The teenager you're working with or supporting is in control of the wheel, but sometimes their emotions or engine can get overpowered and their ability to make safe decisions can be affected.
Wait, there's a guy, Stop.
As the adult in the situation, like the driving instructor, you have access to an extra set of brakes that maybe you can use and apply when they're required. You don't take complete control, but you can step in and help them navigate through tricky situations, making sure they're safe until they're back in a situation where they can take control of the car and manage it safely.
Why are you going so quick on the... I don't know! What am I meant to do? So I can't just brake all of a sudden and turn, can I? Yes, you can.
So what's the first step? Regulation. What is it? This includes the ability to be aware of your own thinking, feeling and behavior, as well as evaluating and managing the emotional states that are triggered in you in a situation. So I like this phrase, nosce te ipsum. It means know thyself. If you are going to be able to act as a safety net in a tense situation, you have to know what you're bringing to the table. Sometimes you're going to have to manage your own stuff. We need to be aware of our own baggage from our historical past. Maybe the current stresses going on at work, at home, or in your relationships with the people close to you. We need to manage all that stuff in situations of high conflict to help the young person make the right decision. We need to acknowledge and separate it from what's happening right now. I'm sure you've seen this in your own life with past or current partners. You get into a minor disagreement about something like washing up or laundry, or maybe a little bit of mess left around the house. It starts out as something small, but once you're both triggered, we start dragging in examples from the past. Maybe things that happened 10 years ago, and it all becomes part of an argument now. So when you walk into a situation of high tension and emotions, you need to model how to deal with it with care and compassion. Try and address the general stresses in your life and set them aside during these incidents. So what are some top tips to regulating yourself? Monitor and observe your behaviors. Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. Those certain words or triggers that you have that just get you straight going. In this case, we've lost our composure and we've become embroiled in the battle. We've lost our ability to stay calm and objective in the situation. So when it comes to managing teenage angst, we have to be really self-aware and self-monitoring to make sure we don't bring in baggage from before into this situation. If you're not managing that stuff, we say something in the heat of the moment that we later significantly regret, or we can just make the situation worse. So what are we supposed to do when we think things are about to kick off? So co-regulation generally refers to giving support to other people to help them navigate their emotions and experiences. It essentially involves relying on another person to help you manage yourself and your emotions, especially when you aren't able to do so for lots of complex reasons. A couple of different strategies you can use like instrumental strategies, trying to change the situation, or soothing and regulating strategies. Examples of this might be simple, like change the environment. Just ask the person to move to a different space. Try and reduce overstimulation, like turn down the noise, turn off the TV, turn on some dim lights. Maybe other physical outlets like movement, such as stepping outside, going for a walk, squeezing a stress ball, or doing some deep breathing. Remember, stay physically present, but don't be overbearing. Give people space whilst making it clear that you're still available. Maybe try and engage them in distractions. Go get some food, play a simple game, or another neutral activity to try and redirect their energy. You can use things like grounding technique, like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Look around, name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch. And let's ground ourselves for a moment. If the young person starting to calm down, you can see that it's possible for them to use more complicated strategies and intentional regulation things like breathing, problem solving, or helping older children to think through difficult coping strategies. And you can tell this by looking at their verbal, non-verbal cues. But what if there's something deeper they need from us? Something that can help them change the way they see themselves and their feelings? Well, that's relate. The relating element of the strategy is centered on acknowledging and accepting the young person's emotions, experiences, and it means recognizing their feelings are real and understandable. So once you can see a young person's calmed down enough, we can try and relate to their emotions and feelings, provide some validation. We don't always need to agree with the feelings that are underneath or how they're coming out in behavior now, but it's all about acknowledging and accepting their feelings and validating who they are. So how do we validate emotions? So you can say things like, I can see you're really wound up. It makes sense. It's frustrating when things don't go the way you expected. Things like, I totally hear you. I get why you're upset. That must feel proper unfair right now. Things like, listen, I can see that's really tough. I get why you're annoyed. You're expecting something and now it's been taken away. Anyone would feel let down, frustrated, or angry. It's completely understandable. Things like, I know it's not just this situation. I know it's bigger than that. And letting them feel heard and understood can help us to navigate through the situation and stay calm. In essence, validation communicates to an individual that their emotional experiences are seen, heard, and understood. This is a foundational part of supportive relationships and a key component in effective co-regulation, which in turn fosters that development of self-regulation skills. By doing this, you can help the young person by providing guidance and verbalizing their experiences, helping them to learn and label things and see how to talk and communicate about emotion in a healthy way. Easy to use languages. I can see you want X, and if it was me, I'd be feeling Y as well. The idea of simple validation. So look, the situation's calming down a bit now. The intensity is reducing. If you've done it well, the young person knows that you understand where they're at. But what do you do to stop this from happening in the future? How can you help them manage the situation differently next time? Well, of course, that requires some reflection. This step is all about reasoning. So they're a little bit calmer, you've validated their experiences, now we need to develop some reflection and learning. This is most often where I see core issues arising, and it's all about timing. Science tells us that after a significant incident where the fight or flight system's been triggered, stress hormones like adrenaline or cortisol are released. So during that time, 0 to 90 minutes, the brain and body are still processing the stress response, which can make a person extremely emotionally reactive and prone to re-triggering. For this reason, it's often better to avoid addressing the problem immediately after the incident. Wait until the individual's a little calmer, maybe later that evening, but probably the next day. It's important during the reflection phase that we debrief. After the intense emotions have passed, we need to address the situation and the emotions involved for the young people. We want to try and help them learn from the experience and develop better coping strategies. So for me, it's about what happened before, what things were you struggling with, frustrated with, or overwhelming emotions did you have leading up to that issue. We think about what triggered the situation and what made it live, and then we can think about what was going on during the incident. We can help them reflect on the emotions they were feeling and the way they were solving their problems. This might be a good time to intervene and provide information on different coping strategies, healthier ways of working, talking, managing those very strong emotions, and better ways of getting your needs met. We can also help them think about, what do we do now? If we know this happened to you in the past, it could happen again in the future. What do you need from us to better manage you and avoid those situations? By consistently applying regulate, relate, reason, we can effectively co-regulate distressed young people and increase their ability to understand and regulate themselves in the future. If you're interested in getting a bit more of a deeper understanding of what's going on for your young people, what their inner worlds are like, their thinking and their behavior, my next video on accessing a young person's inner world is linked right here. You should probably check it out. Have you clicked it yet?